Serdaco's latest and greatest flagship wavetable board. It is the DreamBlaster X16 GS. This one is high-end, it is expensive, and it's really for those who want the very best. Here are some highlights. It comes with a higher-end synthesizer with 16 cores and 256 voices of polyphony, as well as new presets tuned for the X16. We have a massive 1 GB of flash memory to store all the sound banks and presets. Use the preset editor to tweak the sound to your liking, and the exclusive X16 Manager software for managing the uploading of sound banks and presets. Comes with a special read-only sound bank, officially licensed by Dream, featuring nothing other than Roland samples, giving you that balanced and authentic general MIDI music in DOS games. There is a headphone port with line-out level signal, giving you much cleaner audio compared to what you get out of your sound card, especially if you have one of these Noise Blaster sound cards. The speed for uploading sound banks is much faster, and you can plug it into a modern computer through USB and use it with MIDI players or emulators like DOSBox or ScumVM. But what is most important is, what does it sound like? I have some captures here of my favorite DOS games. This is with out-of-the-box settings and presets. So to my ears, this sounds absolutely lovely. The Roland DNA definitely shines through. We're getting that balanced and authentic music in DOS games. Most games from 1993 should have support for general MIDI. And now let's dig a little bit deeper. Let's have a close look at this wavetable board. I'm using it today with an Audition 32 Plus sound card. Here we are looking at two data sheets of Dream synthesizers. The one on the left, SAM5504B, is featured in the DreamBlaster X2, and the one on the right, SAM5716B, is featured in the DreamBlaster X16. And you might be wondering, well, the samples from Roland, they are the same on both devices. Why should I spend more on the DreamBlaster X16? And the difference is, this is a more high-end synthesizer, and the main aspect that's different is here, the digital signal processing array. It's got 16 cores instead of 4, so it has a more powerful effects engine that can process effects like reverb and chorus. And another difference is that the DreamBlaster X2 has a polyphony of 81 voices, whereas the DreamBlaster X16 with the higher end synthesizer can do 256 voices at the same time. So this will come in handy if you're playing very complex MIDI files, or if you take advantage of the fact that the DreamBlaster X16 has 3 USB MIDI streams available. We have a headphone port with line level signal, and this will give you a quieter output. The USB interface lets us flash firmware, presets, and sound banks, but we can also use it as a MIDI device when connected to a modern computer. Here I've downloaded some of the resources from the Serdaco website. The preset editor, you might already be familiar with that one, but the X16 Manager is brand new and only available for the DreamBlaster X16. And here we are. It's a beautiful visual way of showing all the sound banks and where they are stored. Also, we see the presets in action, so you can have individual presets for each sound bank. We can also see the firmware, and you can flash the firmware. I will also show you that process. The DreamBlaster X16 has a massive 1 GB of flash memory available, and it's divided into banks or slots, 7 of them. So the first one, this is the Dream License GS bank. It's read-only, so you can't change this one, but the other banks, you can load custom sound banks. And if you're dealing with a very large sound bank, it can use more than one slot, so it can span several slots. So out of the box, you're getting a couple of sound banks preloaded. So the first one has the samples from Roland. This one is an official Dream sound bank. Then we've got the Buran, we've got an OPL3 sound bank, and this is a chip tune sound bank. Let's pick this one as an example, bank number 3, the Buran sound bank, and then up the top here we can see preset number 3. It's got the X16 Buran default preset applied. Now there is a wet preset available for the Buran sound font. So what I can do here is load the Buran sound bank into bank number 6 and then also load the preset with the wet profile into here, and then I can toggle between the two and listen to the differences. And the way you do this is you select the bank, click on browse, select the Buran sound bank and press open, and then click on upload. And something I noticed is that the uploading happens a lot faster compared to the DreamBlaster X2, so it seems that the USB interface got an upgrade. There you go, so that's done. Now we still have to deal with the preset, so we're selecting the preset 6, click on browse, and then we have to find the preset file. It's Buran wet, press open and then upload, and there you go. And it's just as easy to delete something. You just select the slot, click remove, and then we can do the same thing for this one, remove, and now everything is back to factory defaults. To flash the firmware, you need to disconnect the DreamBlaster and then change the dip switches to bootloader mode, which I've done. Now we open the X16 manager and you can see it looks quite different. We can see here the firmware. So if you want to upgrade the firmware, version 1.04 is the latest one. Click on browse. Then we're selecting the firmware. I should have it here somewhere. There you go, down below. Press open, upload, and it's now programming the firmware. There's one preset that I do want you to consider. That is if you are using the Dream GS sound bank, mostly for DOS gaming. There is a X16 GS wet preset. And well, let's load that. And then I will do some recordings and we can listen to the difference. Should be here, X16 wet, open and upload. Dry and wet, what does that refer to? Well, it's basically the amount of effects being applied. Effects such as reverb and chorus. So a dry preset will have more muted effects, whereas a wet preset will have those effects cranked up to a higher level. And here we are in the preset editor. So this is for those of you who want to tweak the sound characteristics of the various presets. So let's say we want to tweak the X16 Buran wet option. Press open and you can see some of these settings have been changed. Now I'm not too much into the tweaking. I'm really happy with the default presets, but there's one setting I want to point out, the swap stereo option. Tick this and then select stereo swap. This is important because many sound cards with a WaveBlaster header will have the audio, the left and the right, reversed, so make sure you look into that. A good test is running Doom with episode 3 map 3. I have a demonstration here. Also worth pointing out is the general output amp where you can configure the volume. Some WaveBlaster devices have a high volume output or maybe too low, and this is where you can tweak this aspect. And then when you're done, click on Save Preset, save it under a new file, and then you can upload it into the flash of the DreamBlaster. Here I've got the DreamBlaster X16 GS connected through USB into my modern computer, and you can do various things such as flashing the firmware and uploading sound banks and presets, but it also can be used as a USB MIDI synthesizer. This means you can use it with DOSBox or ScumVM. I've got a recording here demonstrating the DreamBlaster in action with ScumVM and the game Sam and Max. It also works as a MIDI device in Falcosoft's MIDI player, my favorite MIDI player for Windows. And here I'm demonstrating the capability of being able to process 3 USB MIDI streams. So I'm opening 3 instances of Falcosoft's MIDI player, and I'm selecting each USB MIDI device separately and playing a different MIDI file from the game Descent. This section about the dip switch settings is from the user manual that you can download from the Serdaco website. And well, the dip switches, there are 4 of them, and it shows you here the configuration. This is the behavior when you power on the device. So if all the switches are set to 0, it will go into bootloader mode for flashing the firmware. And with the other settings, you can configure which sound bank or which slot will be used at startup. But you can also switch between the banks under DOS or under Windows by playing special MIDI files. Here we are on the Retro PC because I want to show you how you can select the different sound banks or slots by playing some MIDI files. So you can download them from the Serdaco webpage. I renamed them to make sure they fit within the 8-character limitation of DOS. There's a MIDI file for previous, next, and then 7 individual ones to specify which slot you want to use. I'm using DOS Mid. It's a nifty MIDI player for MS-DOS, but you need to read the documentation and then edit the config file because the MIDI files need to be played by the wavetable device, which is usually on address 330. By default, it will use the FM synth instead. So we can type DOS Mid slot3.mid, and that will select the 3rd sound bank, which is the Buran sound bank with the dry preset. And with the command DOS Mid slot6.mid, we are switching to the sound bank on the slot number 6. This is also the Buran sound bank. I've uploaded it there, but we have the wet preset. So let's compare the two, the Buran sound bank with the dry versus the wet preset. Pay attention to more reverb and chorus. We have some recordings. There is an expansion header for custom projects. Here we can see the DAC. It's from ESS, a 9023p, high quality with 24-bit and 112 decibel of signal to noise ratio. In this video, we're checking out the DreamBlaster X16 GS. This one has the official Dream GS license and includes the classic Roland MIDI samples, which will sound terrific in DOS games. There is also the regular X16 without the GS. This one does not have the Dream GS license, but it's 10 euros cheaper. The license agreement contains a little detail. The X16 GS product may not be installed in any musical instrument. So it's really meant to be used with a retro PC playing DOS games or connecting it to a modern computer to listen to MIDI files or use it with ScumVM or DOSBox. This is Serdaco's flagship wavetable board, and yes, the price is high. You're looking at 145 euros for the DreamBlaster X16 GS. If you are looking for a device without the Dream license and the Roland bank, maybe you want to use it in a music device, check out the regular X16. It's slightly cheaper at 135 euros. This is the product page of the DreamBlaster X16 GS, and if you scroll down, well, you will find specifications and information. Most of these we will go over in this video, but I want to point out these links here where you will find resources like the user manual and all the software, the sound banks and the presets that we will discuss in this video. Most of you will want to use the DreamBlaster as a wavetable board, but you can also use it as an external MIDI device using the Chill 5 Wave Blaster MIDI interface board. At the moment it's on pre-order, but expected to be shipped beginning of December. And if you're interested in both, they have some bundles here. So let's say you wanna buy the DreamBlaster X16 GS with the Chill 5, you get a bundle price of 190 euros. And to make everything look pretty, there's an external enclosure available. Go for the extra large version, the Chillbox XL, because this Wave Blaster board is a little bit on the larger size. So guys, we listened to how DOS games sound on the DreamBlaster X16 GS, and we covered all the features, including the software. So what are my thoughts? Well, I really like it. It sounds absolutely lovely. So the higher end synthesizer and also the headphone output, they are responsible for a very nice and clean audio signal. We are getting new presets that are tuned for the X16, a massive 1 GB of flash memory, and really nifty software that makes it very easy to manage all these sound banks and presets. Uploading through USB is much faster now. We can use it as a MIDI device in Falcosoft's MIDI player, for example, but also in emulators like DOSBox or ScumVM. The price is high, there is no doubt. So this is indeed a flagship premium product for those who simply want the best. Now, speaking of price, have a look in the video description. We might have a small discount coupon for you guys if you're interested in buying one. So guys, I hope I covered every aspect of this device. I do get to keep it, so if you have any specific questions, I will do my best to answer them. And if not, I will just refer to Serdaco. I have his email address and I can always ask for more detailed information. Now, I would love to hear from you. What is your opinion? We listened to a bunch of DOS games. What does it sound like to your ears? And what MIDI device are you using for MS-DOS? And yeah, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, I shall see you soon with another one.